Everyone, and welcome back to this playthrough of the board game Rome Total War. And here we are at the end of round number 2, and compared to last time, not a lot has actually changed, but let's walk you through how things are looking at the moment and how we can actually analyse this board. So in particular, what we're going to do to begin with, let's start with the barbarians. So as you can see, the barbarians have moved up into Britannia there, so that's a great kind of starting move. They're able to take that and achieve dominance over there. You can even actually also see that they have established a couple of markets in there as well. And as you see, because they're in territories that have ports, it means that they are going to gain further coin during the taxation phase. So whenever you get the opportunity, it's fantastic to be able to get an army and put it up into there. So you can see that they've made that move. The next thing is that they have moved along here and have managed to capture this mercenary region in here. So that's the Dacians in there, and you can actually even see that there is a building there that is a barracks. So the fact that they've laid down that barracks means they're able to recruit the Dacian phalanxmen into there, and they'll be able to recruit units and send them to armies within 4 spaces. So if you actually take a look at where that is and then count back 4, and the different territories like rivers and mountains don't matter, so that's good. So you can count that from there: 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see, even this army sitting over here, it can actually also recruit the Dacians there as well. So that's kind of your limit over on this side. You can be recruiting units from there into here all the way down there. So that's great, especially if you're going to be taking on the Romans there. So they've gone and moved along here. So what's really important at this stage is to make sure that they are able to maintain that line of communication. So that's where potentially the Romans could come up, or the Greeks even could come up, sweep, take them out. So that's where you do have to be very careful and make sure that you maintain that line of communication. But a great move from the barbarians to get started there. You can then see that this army has moved down into here. It's been very, very cautious. So from there, it could capture these regions. You can see there's a lot of territory in these regions. And this army here, from memory, is the one that has the Highland warriors in it. So they can come and capture these regions here. But really what you want to do is you want to be able to try and push down into here and put pressure onto Rome before the Romans manage to develop the Marian reforms. So from here, you'd really want to actually try and be as aggressive as you possibly can. The reason why you want to do that is because the auxiliaries take on the capabilities of actually performing better within the terrain, and even better than the Highland warriors. That's why you want to be really aggressive from that point forwards. You can then see that what they've done is they've moved down into here. They've captured this region, which gives them access into the Mediterranean Sea if they wanted to do that later. But in particular, moving down to here to establish what I refer to as the wall. So you can already see where they've developed the opportunity to develop the defensive stance into here. From there, they can then be thinking about bringing this army down from Britannia, and they could continue to push down southwards. This is where they could even get a navy on the go. And let me show you what you could do there. So say you managed to establish a navy up here in the Mar Britannicus. That's where you can come and attack down into these regions here, or you can go right down and actually attack into the Carthaginian homelands down here. So it really opens up all of this area that is kind of all of Iberia, being able to defend the lands here and what would be modern day France. I guess it's Galatia, isn't it? And so then what you can see on the other side is there's the opportunity to hem the Romans in here, create a defensive position. Create a defensive position along here, and then it's all about what this army is going to do up here. Does it want to continue to move along the top? Does it want to go down south to attack the Greeks, and in particular maybe using the river here to be able to establish just a defensive line against the Greeks, in which case that would mean that the barbarians would have this huge part of the board all the way up along the north there, and that'd be absolutely fantastic if they were able to achieve that. And that just means that they're going to have all this income flooding in, which would be absolutely brilliant for them. But let's now move on actually to the Greeks themselves. So the Greeks, as you can see, they have managed to establish a line of defense, or should I say rather, it's the Romans that have established their line of defense over here. And in particular because they've developed the fort, which means there's a hard line there. The Greeks are starting to mount up their armies right here, and actually this is really great that the Romans have actually got the Greeks stuck. But the question is, who benefits from this? Do the Greeks benefit from being stuck here? Do the Romans benefit from being stuck here? No, neither of them do. So this is where, yeah, we might want to be looking diplomatically to see if the two of them are actually able to establish some type of truce so that they can actually go after the faction that looks like it's doing, well, the two factions that look like it's doing the best. One is the barbarians, because that's putting the Greeks under a lot of pressure. They're not really going to be able to attack up into here until they can do something about that barbarian army. The other thing as well is that you've got the Carthaginians that could move along the south of the Mediterranean. In fact, they already are moving along the south, which is creating a threat. So it's at this stage where you might think the Greeks would be better off to actually go in and make some type of deal with the Romans, because they want to be able to break this deadlock. At the moment, what's happening here is that a defensive line is kind of developing within the north. You can see that the Greeks have been very aggressive against the Romans up into this area. And is that really beneficial for them? At the same time, though, you can see that they have managed to develop their navies. Now, at this moment in time, I can't quite remember what the composition is. But you can see a clear line being drawn there where they're preventing the Romans and the Carthaginians from being able to attack into this part of the board. Using their navies. So that's really opening up the Greeks having dominance over this kind of southeastern portion of the board. But as you can see, they have pushed down into here, and that means that they have opened up the opportunity that they would be able to nab all of this part of the board over here pretty much uncontested, which is going to be great in terms of the Greeks developing that income. You can also see that they've actually also developed a market there, which is great for once again for that income, because the mid to late game, that's when you're really looking at getting your points from income and from these kind of high quality army battles. So that's great that they've been able to push down into here and have the opportunity to push further this way. Now, if we go to the Carthaginians, once again, you can see that the Carthaginians are in a position that they're able to kind of set up this wall here if they play their cards right. Pardon me, let me just draw this correctly here. If they play their card rights, they're going to be able to take the Iberian Peninsula and be able to hold on to all of that territory there uncontested. It really depends whether or not the barbarians bring that army down here. Very much looking a little bit vulnerable there. That's the only thing that we have to point out. You can also see that the Carthaginians have come and have captured this region here and placed a barracks there. That means that they're going to get access to the Numidian elephants in particular, but actually some really great Numidian units down there. So you've got the elephants, you've got the horse archers, and then you've also got the javelin men. So a fantastic array there, and definitely worthwhile sending an army down into here and capturing it. And from there, you just want to capture the rest of it. And that's where they might want to be thinking about sending that army up into here, and then sending it up here to act as a deterrent for the barbarians to want to try and push further down into here. That's what they really want to do. You can also see that they've come and they've moved along North Africa there. That makes absolute sense. And at this point, they want to be thinking about where is it that they're actually going to try and hold that line against the Greeks. Where is it that they're going to try and establish that over there? As we can see, they do not have naval dominance at the moment, which means that they could be vulnerable from attacks coming in from the Greeks down into here. So they do have to be very careful about that, especially if there was a deal between the Romans and the Greeks and freeing up one of these Greek armies. That's going to make them very vulnerable to attacks coming down into here. Part of the reason perhaps why we can see that there is a Carthaginian army still sitting up in their capital, in particular that's where you can see, oh, wrong color, that's where you can see that a battle line has been established there. But in this particular campaign, the Romans actually do have an alliance with the Carthaginians, which means that they might be in a position that the two of them could move these armies away if they could get their diplomatic situation right. Now we can move on to the Romans here, and you can see that the Romans are in a really, really tough spot. You can see that what's happened is that they've got a couple of unrest sitting in their capital. That is absolutely devastating, especially that they've gone and actually placed a market into there, which is doing absolutely nothing for them right now. So they're going to have to then take an army and place it right into here just to get rid of that unrest. And that's an army that then can't go out and do anything else. So what might be a good idea actually is in your very first term as Rome, because in terms of unrest, it's very easy to send your diplomats into Rome to place down the unrest. There are other cards that allow you to do that without even needing to send a diplomat, but it's very easy to do that just because it's in the center of the board. You might want to have just your smallest army just sitting in Rome, and from the very first turn, just sit it there to try and disincentivize anyone from going and placing the unrest into there, although maybe that would have just happened anyway, who knows. But yes, the Romans are in a really tight spot, so you can see that they've moved down into here to capture what is modern day Sicily. So there's some great regions down there, great ones that you really want to hold, but it means sending a whole army down into there. You can also see that what's happened is that instead of actually going over the land regions and into here, they went through here for the sea regions. What's actually happened is that the reason this Greek navy is sitting here is because the Romans actually used that waterway, and then the Greeks came and attacked them. So they made themselves very vulnerable in that regard. And now you've got a Roman army that is sitting out here, and it's not attached to its line of communication. That line of communication is broken, which means that if the Greeks were to go and attack this Roman army, it wouldn't be able to replenish its forces. So even if they went and attacked, lost the first battle, they could send in another army and perhaps win the second battle. The only problem with that is if that's what the Greeks decided to do, and then the barbarians would be open to attack into Greece or come and take out whatever is left of the armies down here and snap up the territory for itself. So this is a perfect kind of Mexican standoff, to put it that way, whereby none of these armies can attack without depleting each other so much that the third army that would be left, the third faction that would be left, would come in and just be able to pick up the rest. This is fantastic for the barbarians, who, if the Greeks and Romans don't manage to resolve this diplomatically, are free to just roam around. So we'll have to see exactly, pardon the pun, roam around, would be free to just roam around the rest of the board up the top there. So we'll have to see what the Greeks and the Romans decide to do there. In the meantime, what the Romans really want to do is to come up here and establish where this line is going to be in terms of that defense, because right now it is sitting open for the barbarians to come and be really, really aggressive into here. You can also see that there is the islands sitting over here, which are sitting open. Now, Rome has one of its navies there. It needs to be very, very cautious. At the moment, it is free to move without being intercepted just because of where the Greek navies are. But depending on who's going to go first in the next turn, that opportunity might disappear very quickly. The other thing they need to be very cautious of is that if they did move an army onto there, come and take these islands, if the Greeks managed to establish dominance and come in, take out this navy, that army could then end up stuck. So they have to really, really watch out for that. They definitely don't want to find themselves in that situation when already they've got an army that is out over here, an army that's stuck until trust is developed with the Carthaginians down there, and an army which is very small. The Roman army start very small, will be stuck in Rome having to take out this unrest. So they've not got great opportunities to expand, and that's why the Romans at the moment are in the weakest position right now, because in order to be able to go forwards and take more territory, they're not really in a position to be able to do that. And that is also reflected in the in the victory points which they've earned at this stage. Now, at the end of turn 2, it's not unusual that there's perhaps only 1 or 2 points that have been scored. What you'll find is in the turns coming up is that victory points will be scored very, very rapidly, very, very quickly, as we start to earn points through taxation and we start to see much more battles. You're going to see these points racking up very quickly. But Rome sitting at the back with no points currently, and at the moment, no way of being able to score points either. So that's the way that I'm seeing the board at the moment. Please leave your comments below to see, is there a different way that you're seeing it? Is there a different way that you might approach this situation? What might you decide to do next? And let's see exactly what plays out in this next turn. So thanks for taking the time to watch. Please go ahead and like this video. It makes a huge difference. And if you want to follow this campaign further, then please do subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you in the rest of the campaign.